Hi, welcome to crackingmba.com. Today we're going to talk about pie charts, and this is going to be the first part in the series of pie charts. So we're going to cover some basic concepts of pie charts and also cover some sample numericals to better understand how to solve numericals in pie charts. So pie chart is basically a representation of data of several elements as a pie in a whole. So we have a 360 degrees chart in which there are several pies and each pie represents the weightage of a particular element in the whole. So if we see this particular pie chart on the right side, we can find that this is a pie chart having the representation of various schools from school 1 to school 5, and the values that are represented in the pie chart are in degrees of the total area of that particular pie chart. So the total area of that pie chart. So the entire pie chart represents a value of 360 degrees, and each pie represents a certain value of represented by degrees of that 360 degrees. So if we see here, we are basically saying the one in blue is corresponds to school 1, as can be seen in the legend on the right side. The one in red corresponds to school 2, one in orange corresponds to school 3, and the one in green corresponds to school 4 and purple school 5. So let's see how we can actually apply these concepts. So let's look at some sample numerical and see how we can analyze this particular pie chart. So the question says that at a given education fair, the following is the breakup of the number of students from various schools, and the total number of students is given as 4,500 at that fair. So the pie chart is represented in degrees, and there are five schools 1 to 5. So the question is, which school has the highest number of students at the fair? So a typical tendency would be to actually do the division. So we're saying that, calculating 120 degrees out of 360 degrees corresponds to 4,500. So how much 120 degrees corresponds to? So you could actually calculate the number of students of each school and then arrive at that value. But that would be very tedious, right? So the what we're going to cover in this exercise is just to look at the pie chart and come to conclusions. See if you can get an answer just by looking at it. So here, if you can just analyze it, you can just see visually, you should be able to identify the answer. If you want the highest number of students at the fair, it should correspond to the largest pie, which is 120, right? So the answer is school 4. Move to the next one. How many students have how many schools have students greater than 1125 at the fair? So to solve this kind of question, again, the temptation would be to find out how many schools have how many students at the fair by actually calculating the value of each pie. So for school 4, you would probably do 120 divided by 360 into 4,500. And for school 3, you could possibly do 96 divided by 360 into 4,500. But doing this for all the schools becomes tedious. So you should have a faster way of doing it. So what you need to do is, since the pi has the values in degrees, your question should be converted into degrees. Okay, but this is 1125 is not in degrees, it's just a number. So what we need to do is calculate what percentage of the total students is 1125. So 1125 divided by 4,500 into 100 corresponds to around 25%. So it is 25% of the total number of students. So all we are saying is how many schools have greater than 25% at the fair. But again, if you look at it, this pie chart doesn't have in percentage, it has in degrees. So how do you convert a percentage to a degrees? So we know that the pi represents 360 degrees. So 25% of 360 is nothing but 90 degrees. So all we need to do is identify how many schools have greater than 90 degrees in this pie chart at this particular fair. So now if we just look at it, we just know that school 4 and school 3 are the only ones which have greater than 90 degrees, and hence the total number of schools having greater than 1125 is 2. Option is B. You can look at the hint also. So that is what we are talking about. So what we need to take away from this question is that you need to convert the question into what is being defined on the pie chart so that it's easier for you to visually compare and derive the answer faster. What is the number of students in school 3? So this is a plain math question. So here we are trying to apply the concept of how to derive a value given a particular pie chart in degrees. So we are saying 96 divided by 360, which is the total pi. So 360 degrees corresponds to 4500. How much corresponds to 96 degrees? So that is what we are trying to find out. So 96 divided by 360 into 4500 will give you the answer, and the answer is B, 1200. You can look at the hint below. Okay, moving on to the next question. Which of the following school combinations result in number of students exceeding 50% of the total students at the fair? So what we are saying is which two combination of schools will result in the students exceeding 50% of the students. So what is the total number of students? 4500. What is 50% of that? 2250. So if we want to identify how many exceed 50%, we don't need to actually even go that far. We just need to say 50% of 360 degrees corresponds to 180 degrees. So like we discussed in some previous numericals, we just need to convert the question into degrees so that it's easier for you to analyze on the chart. So 50% of 360 degrees is 180 degrees. So we need to identify how many schools combinations will result in total greater than 180 degrees. So if you look at the chart, we can see that we have a combination of 120 plus 196 exceeding 180 degrees, or 120 plus 72 exceeding 180 degrees. So all we need to do is look at the options and see which one is having one of these options. So we can basically see that option D has school 4 and school 5. So green and purple, which is 192 degrees, is greater than 180 degrees. So they both combined have the strength greater than 50%. So this way we haven't even touched put the pencil on paper or pen on paper and arrived at the answer. So bottom line is you need to be able to convert the question into the unit specified in the chart. So let's look at the next question. If some students from school 4 were to join school 3 so that the number of students are the same in both schools, how many students would have to move from school 4 to school 3? So in this question we have a little bit of calculation so that we arrive at how many students are there in schools 4 and school 3. So school 4 corresponds to 120 divided by 360 into 4500, that's 1500, and school 3 corresponds to 96 divided by 360 into 4500, which is nothing but 1200. So 1500 and 1200, how many students should move from 1500 to 1200 so that it becomes equal in both schools? So for this we just need to take the average of 1500 and 1200, which is 1350. So 1500 minus 1350 is 150. So 150 is the number of students that have to move. So you can look at the hint. Okay. So that's it for this just basic session on pie charts. Hope it has been helpful to you in analyzing pie charts without actually doing too much of math or wasting too much of time on calculations. You can take the mock test on our Android app and just to consolidate your knowledge.